by testing the heel, and then we'll go up towards the toe. So you're gonna grab your shoes, and what you're looking for is a rock to come straight up and straight down, and you don't want any side to side movement. So the first thing we're gonna look at is when you bring the shoe up, does the toe go straight up to the air, or does it deviate to one side or to the other side? So I have this pair of Nike Free ones that I used to run in before they gave me some lower foot plantar fascia pain. And you could tell when I put pressure onto it, it favors over to the outside of my heel. So there's more weight on the outside of this shoe than on the inside of the shoe, which is what you don't want. When I bring my New Balance up, it comes directly up symmetrically from the inside to the outside of the shoe. So you know when you go onto the back of your foot, your weight's gonna be a little bit more evenly distributed compared to the Nike. Next, with the Ons, you can see that it's pretty good, but a little bit more towards the outside of the shoe. So you guys play around with what you have in front of you and give yourself a quick little assessment. After that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna allow the shoe to rock. So you're gonna bring the shoe up and let it drop down. Up and let it drop down. You can see with these Nikes, every time that I do that, since the weight is heavier on the outside of the shoe, even though I'm putting force just straight back down, it's always rocking and turning to the right. And this is my right shoe. With the New Balances, what you can see is when you bring it up, it goes straight down. So no turning, and it has symmetrical rocking front and backwards. And that's what you want, that nice rocking motion back and forth. You don't want it to just hit the ground and stop right there. We'll take a look at the Ons now. So with the Ons, it doesn't rock as smoothly, and the heel's a little heavier than I'd like it to be, but it's still not having that rotation that the Nike did. So give it a try and see what your shoe at home does. Good. So we're gonna do the same thing that we did for the heel, now for the front of the shoe, for the toe of the shoe. So you're gonna put your thumb on the front of the shoe and see if the toe raises evenly. So with these Ons, it likes to favor the inside of the shoe. So you can see here that when I press down straight forward, the shoe deviates internally or inside. So that'll put more pressure on your big toe when you're going off a push-off and propulsing your foot forward. When we look at the New Balances, they come straight up into the air, and they don't have that side-to-side deviation, that lateral deviation that you saw with the Ons. We'll check out the Nikes. And you could see right away, it starts deviating medially again. So the rear foot is heavier on the outside of these, and the midfoot, or the forefoot rather, is heavier on the inside of these. After you assess if the shoe comes up symmetrically or if it deviates from one side to the other side, you're also going to check how it rocks back and forth by putting pressure down into the toe. So what you're going to do is, same thing we did for the heel, you're going to push the toe down to the ground, and then you're going to see if the shoe translates evenly forward and back and doesn't move side to side. So if you remember with this shoe, when we rocked from the heel, it always moved to the right because the outside of the shoe was heavier. Now, when we do it up at the toe, we know the inside of the toe box is a little heavier, so now it's starting to deviate towards the inside. If we try with our New Balances, much more symmetrical, goes straight up and down, and you can see that the heel of the forefoot doesn't turn inside or outside. We'll check it with the Ons. So pretty good here too, staying symmetrical, turning a little bit towards the inside, but not too bad. Sweet. So the next test that we're going to bring our shoes through is to see how the shoe is able to adapt and form to your foot while you're running. So this one, we're going to check the forefoot mobility and the midfoot mobility of the shoe itself. So you're going to take your shoe and you're going to hold it upside down. What you're looking for is when you apply pressure into the shoe or when you're running and finishing that last push-off phase, you want to make sure that the front part of the shoe has enough flexibility so you can evenly transmit the forces from your big toe through your forefoot and up into your midfoot, rear foot, and through the rest of your body. So when I press down on the front of this shoe, you can see that almost all of the motion is coming right through this segment here. What you would really like to see is a segmental mobility in the shoe that allows that shoe to naturally curl up and more efficiently transmit those forces. Wherever you have that hinge point in the shoe is where you're going to have most of the mobility in the foot. Those are going to be the areas in your foot where you're predisposed for an overuse injury because that's the only part of your forefoot that's moving. So just like if you have a hinge point in your low back where you have most of your movement coming from, that's where you're going to have the most amount of tissue stress placed on your body. So take a second, see if your shoe has one of those hinge points. You can see on the New Balance that it doesn't really have a hinge point and that it evenly folds and flexes and creates that nice dome, which is what we're looking for. And on the Nikes, they're really apparent on this pair. That's my hinge point right here. So if I had to take a guess, this is where I would have most of my pain, that plantar fascia pain right by the base of the big toe, which is what I had when I was wearing these. Next, we're going to bring our shoes through a rotation test. Get a sense if the shoe allows you to pronate and supinate. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab your shoe and you're going to rotate it in and rotate it out. These shoes, really flexible, allows for full pronation and supination. When I try the ons, it doesn't allow me to roll out as much as it allows me to roll in. So it's going to allow for pronation, but it's not going to allow for the same amount of supination. Next, we'll check out the New Balance. So supination is good and pronation is good. They are symmetrical. It's okay to have a stiff shoe, one that doesn't have a lot of rotation in it, but what you don't want is to have an uneven amount of rotation from side to side. So if you're someone that likes a lot of foot support, ankle support, your shoe might be a little stiffer than others, but you don't want the stiffness on one side to be more than the other side. So some final points to take away from this are at some factories, there's different employees that make the right shoe and the left shoe that are eventually be in the same box. So some of these shoes, although they're the same pair of shoes in a box, might have different characteristics depending on who actually manufactured and put together the shoe. So it's really important while you're at the store to bring both shoes through this assessment to make sure that both shoes pass the test. I can't stress enough about the importance of using a local running store when trying to purchase shoes. There's one in Westport that we like to use a lot called Fleet Feet. All of their staff are experienced runners who know what you need in order to find the shoe that fits you. So spending a couple extra dollars and the extra time to go into a local running store rather than a Dick's or Modell's can be super beneficial in finding out what shoe works best for you, especially if you're a beginner runner or somebody that's trying to get into running, somebody that's always wanted to run but has had pain when they run, or somebody who just needs a little bit more detail in finding out what works well for them. So that's all I have for today. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about how the types of shoes and where the padding is on the shoe will be determined based on the type of runner that you are, whether you are a forefoot runner, so you strike with your forefoot, you strike with your midfoot, or you strike with your heel. Those that strike with their heel might want a little bit more padding to decrease some of the pounding forces that's getting put up their kinetic chain. Rather, as somebody who strikes on the forefoot and doesn't spend that much time on their heel while running might not need that added support here. Does anybody have any questions on anything that I just went over? So I'll throw my email address into the chat real quick. And if anybody has any questions at any point, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out. And I'm sure that we could work together to find a shoe that fits you. How's it going, Barbara?
I have one question.
You.
Is Jackrabbit a good spot for, you know, the Jackrabbit in the city? They have like a running store for shoes. Are they good for assessing?
So I haven't worked with them personally.
Okay.
But I could send you an email with some of the running stores that I've sent clients to in Manhattan that they
Perfect.
liked.
Awesome.
Yes. All right.
And do you have my email, or do I need to get it to you somehow?
Let me take it down right now, or you can, you know what? I'll put
it in the chat.
Perfect.
Are you okay? Where are you? All right, I'll figure it out. Wherever it is. All right.
And I just threw mine up there too.
Oh, yes. Oh, I see it. Okay, I have yours. I'll email you through yours. How about that?
Perfect.
Bueno. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good one, guys. Enjoy this beautiful weather.
All right.
Thanks, Joe.
No problem, Beth.
Bye.
Thanks, Joe. That was great.
No problem, Connie. I'll see you later.